Hello there. So let's talk about doors in a way that is relevant to the entire Blender and Freecad workflow. First things first, let me delete this cube right here and let me press N for the toolbar to appear and come here to the scene settings. Make sure that your units is set to imperial or metric. It doesn't matter. Here I'm going to go to meters. And the reason why I make sure that that's like that is because I tend to use this book, the Ching book. Um, so it's gonna give us some interesting detail ideas about doors. So it has, if you want to model with precision, it has a lot of specific information as to what's going on, the clearance, the width, the heights, and stuff like that. So by following this book, for example, let's look at that. For example, it says here nominal width, anywhere from 2 feet to 4 feet wide. So if you're working with a 3 feet wide opening, you know what you have to do, and these are the value in millimeters or meters. This is actually millimeters. So from this book, you can have different nominal heights by frame openings, rail, you know. So you have all these different styles of doors, and so it's easy to work like that when you know what you're doing based on some of these reference, which often that's where I'm going to get some of my guiding references. So once you have that in millimeters, okay, so what you do here is, let me turn on the screencast display. I want to insert a you know let's say an object, let's say a plane here, um, and I'm going to rotate this plane in the X, or probably not the best idea. Let me just drop a cube here and bring the cube up by 1 and make sure that the origin of this cube is set to the center there, right? So what you're gonna do is object, transform origin to geometry, object, transform origin to 3D cursor, like that. So that now when I'm going to change the height, typically the heights are 2.1 meters tall, like this. um, Let me show you what would have happened if I did not do that. Let me insert a new cube here, and like we did before, press that, press 1. So because the cursor is at the center there, if I were to change this value to, let's say, 2.1, or any value, you see it changes from the center. So you want to make sure that for doors, you want to make sure that their cursor is always at their base, because the door is always going to be, you manipulate the door from its base, right? So not from its center. So now that you have the cube, the height is right. So we want probably a 1 meter height, 1 meter width. So in the y direction, you want enter 1 meter. And so here we get into the edit mode now, and what we do is we delete these faces, select these 4 vertices, and press X and press X and delete the vertices like this, and all you have left is this empty plane. So let's tab into the edit mode and come to the display, and you're going to see that the lengths are not exactly right, accurate. 2 meters and 2 meters, that's not right. But in edit mode, object mode, it tells us I have 2.1 and 1 meters width. This is because we did not apply our scale. So come object, apply scale. That tells the outside dimension, that tells the inside dimension to take the values of the outside dimension. So now I have 2.1 here and 2.1 here. So now I want to probably make sure that my cursor is, at the base here of this door. So probably the best way to do that is to select these 2 edges and Control S, Shift S rather, and cursor to selected, and then object, and then uh, transform uh, object to origin to 3D cursor, like that. And now I can reset the value of my cursor, and now Shift S object to select it. Selection to cursor, like that. So now I have my door at the center right there. So at this point, this is all I really need. Uh, I can edit this mode now. So now that I have 1 meter, let's say this is a 3 foot door opening, and I wanted to have a 3 foot clearance here at the center. One way that I will do that is that, or let's say I wanted a 0.9 meter wide, because 3 foot is actually 0.9 meter wide opening in meters. So I'm going to go into edit mode. I'm going to press Inset I to Inset, and it's going to give me this value here, and so I'm going to inset that by 5 centimeter. So in 5 centimeter on each corner. So now what I can do is select this edge right here and delete this edge like this, and then I can select this edge now, these two edges, and snap it. Make sure that your snap is on, vertex snapping is on, and then snap to that edge. So now I have 5 centimeters on each side and 90 centimeters in the middle. So now I want to object apply scale again like this. Okay, so now select this face and press Y and P to separate the selection like this, and this object. Now at this point I'm gonna give it a solidify modifier like this, and depending on what the thickness of my wall is, if my wall is 20 centimeter and I want it to be 20 centimeter, or this is how I can alter the thickness. Okay, so here for example, this is my glass. So I can sort of move it like that, or maybe also give it a thickness modifier, solidify like this, and I'm gonna give it a 10 centimeter thickness like this, and maybe it's too thick, maybe go down like that, maybe 7 is good, and probably move it by, let's say, 5 centimeter, negative 5 centimeter, like that. So that's my door, and I'm gonna create another door on the side. Shift copy, and this door, for example, I'm gonna change the pivoting area. So I'm gonna come into the edit mode here, and I'm going to select this door. In the door, I'm gonna select this edge, Control S, selection to cursor, cursor to selected, like this. Edit out of that, and then object, transform, and then origin to 3D cursor like this. So what this allows me to do is this allows me to say I want to rotate this door to create an opening by, let's say, 90 degree like this. So this is how I would do such a thing. So why is it good to work like this is because whenever I have a wall, let's say I had a wall, let's say from this edge, for example, I can continue building a wall. I can extrude this like this, and then I can extrude this like this, and then I can select these two faces, Y, P, and then here I'm going to make sure that I have even thickness and high quality normal. So this means that anytime that I want to use these doors, I can duplicate these doors on any wall. As you see there like this, I can select this door, and or maybe this one, and now shift duplicate this like this, and I'm going to rotate this like this by, let's say, 90, enter, and then make sure that my snap is still on, snap that there, and then step out and snap this on the side there. And another trick is, if you want to flip this like this, let's say I'm not satisfied with that, I'm going to select this wall, I'm going to select this edge, okay, and extrude this. Oops, extrude this like this on this edge, and then extrude another, maybe let's say 1 meter negative like this. And then now I can select this face and X faces. And so let's say I had a duplicated door like this, shift duplicate, and I wanted to flip this door on the other side. I'm going to press Ctrl M and then press Y, because that's the direction where I'm trying to flip it at, and enter, and just snap it into position like that. Or I can press Ctrl M, in the X direction, and flip it like that. So why am I showing you this kind of modeling? Because this is the way that is relevant to Freecad, in terms of how Freecad is going to read the object. So let's say I wanted to select all of this. I can select all my doors, like this, and then File, Export, OBJ, and we're going to call these doors. Let's save that. Make sure that my up is Z up and Y forward. Y forward, selection only, and the scale is set to 1000. Okay. Alright, so export OBJ. So now you have Freecad, and you start a new file. Go to the architecture workbench already, and bring in the door. Okay, so these are my doors, and so because I brought them all together, they appeared in one single mesh. So I'm going to explode the mesh and split the mesh, so it brings up everything nicely. So I select the mesh now, and I convert all the meshes to shape. Now I can delete this previous mesh, delete that, and now I have the doors. So now let's say here, for example, you have different styles of doors here. For example, you have some doors with some glass, some vision, some narrow lights, and stuff. So the reason I model the way I do is because it gives me the flexibility to now come and say, okay, maybe this was, let's say this was a mirror door. Let me select that. Copy this, shift duplicate that, and move that here, and then move this here. So now I can select this face and this one, for example, and I can say inset that by, let's say, value of, let's say, 15 centimeter or so, and I can select this face again, Y, P, press the selection, and select this face, and then maybe reduce the thickness a little bit like that, and I have a glass there, and I can do the same thing here, where I say, okay, I want, so in this one I'm going to just press Ctrl R to insert some loops here, and I'm going to do this, bring some loops here. So this is how I can create as many. Press Y, P, separate that, and then select that, reduce that, and now I can select all of these doors and file, export, OBJ, doors, make sure my settings are good, export, okay. Now here I'm gonna drop them in here again, drop my doors, select, I have two doors there, one mesh, split the mesh, once again, now I have the doors, convert the doors, architectures, convert that, okay. So now delete the mesh. So now it's easy to say, okay, I want to select this glass, make it blue, and give it a transparency value, and this will all be wood material. Wood material. Okay, so these are some doors. Let me just export the walls as well quickly. Select this wall, file, export, OBJ, wall, export, and then bring my wall, select that, and I have one mesh, architecture, split mesh. Let's see what happened. So because I did not split the mesh, it gave me this funky object here, so I don't want that. It's corrupted, so I want to split mesh, split the mesh. So I have two walls now. And so architecture, convert mesh to walls, and I can delete these two meshes now. Delete walls. Okay, so there you go. So now at this point, you know, it's very easy to let's say create sections. So I can create a section here, bring this section up by, let's say, 1 meter, 1.5 meters. And what other view do I want? I want probably the front view as well. Okay, probably this view, and drop another section there. Okay, so I'm gonna select all these and then add them there, add, and then add them here to the second section, add, and then go to text draw, go to text draw, and select a new drawing, an A3 landscape, open that, and I can insert my drawings, select these two drawings, scale them down to where's my scale, 0.01. Okay, so I want to rotate this one by 90, like that, and I want to give it a line width of 0.2, and do the same thing here. And of course you can on this one you can put the solid rendering mode on, because that's a cut. So you can see my doors there, nice. And here so we can see solid rendering mode. So those are my doors. And obviously, uh, you can always take it a further step, in terms of annotation and whatnot. So if you wanted to, let's say, annotate that, it would be very easy to annotate these doors. So that's the way I create the doors. It's very straightforward. It's very quick, and that's the best way that I've come to discover that you can work with doors in Blender and export them into FreeCAD. Now there are many other add-ons out there which can create doors for you in Blender, but the problem is that they don't give you clean meshes that will convert in one clean swoop this way. So at this point it's very easy to just come into Blender and let's say do a few modifications. Let's say I wanted to change the position of this wall, and let's say I wanted to move this door. At this point, this is the way that modeling, and I can now export that and just convert that and put everything into their respective folders in FreeCAD, and I have a clean drawing. And if I can be, careful enough, I can pay attention to some of these information here. So this is about it for this tutorial. I hope that was able to bring some interesting highlights to this workflow. More's to come on doors and windows and many more. So stay tuned. All right.